Hello friends, today I'm going to be discussing how to build a sales team structure. One of the most forgotten elements of a successful sales organization is structure. The correct structure can mean hundreds of thousands of dollars to your organization. But what is the correct structure for a sales team within your organization? Well, by the end of this video, I'm going to give you the secret sauce as it applies to sales team structure. What are the secrets to designing a team structure that fosters collaboration and drives results? Today we're uncovering those secrets and showing you how to apply those by first starting with a solid base that ensures that your team structure is set from the get-go. Next, I will talk about the exact structure that I've used in the organizations that I've ran that I believe foster success and growth. And finally, I'll talk about key metrics and how monitoring those metrics will allow for that structure to be nimble and adjust quickly for success. If you're ready, let's go. So what type of environment is a great base when we're setting up a team structure? I believe first and foremost, and I talk about this a lot, but it comes down to company culture. Honestly, if you don't have a good culture in place, everything else will probably wither and die. Now, maybe not wither and die, but think about it. When you're trying to set something up, especially a structure, and you don't have a type of culture that fosters excitement, energy, growth, diversity, it's going to be extremely difficult for that structure to grow. Just like if you were to plant a seed in a very dry, barren wasteland with no water or no nutrients, the chances of that thriving and succeeding aren't very good. But if you plant that same seed in a well-watered, great soil type of environment, that is going to thrive. I think James Allen said it best in his essay, As a Man Thinketh, that he said, no matter what happens, even if you have a garden that you're nurturing, if you do absolutely nothing to that, if you just leave it alone, it's not just going to thrive or grow, it's going to probably wither and die, and most likely useless weed seeds are going to grow in that environment, and they're going to choke out everything else. So you need to actively promote and think about culture as a way to start your company with a good baseline. And there's a few things I think when it comes to culture that are really important. And I call it the 3 Bs. Help people feel like they have a belief in what you're doing, they belong to something, and they can become a better version of themselves. So the 3 Bs, believe, belong, become. And that is a motto or mantra that we've had in all my organizations, whether it's athletics, coaching different sports teams, or it's the entire organization of a company that I own, or an association that I'm a part of. But if you can incorporate the type of culture where people feel like they can believe in themselves and believe in the company, believe in the product, believe in the service, that is awesome. They have a belief in something. And if they feel like they're a part of something, and maybe something that is bigger than themselves, they belong. Everybody wants to belong to something. And if you can help people develop and become the best version of themselves, that gives them the desire and longevity to stick with you no matter what's happening. I also believe that part of that culture requires you to have just good energy and good positive vibe within that company environment. So how do you create a positive vibe? I know that's thrown out there a lot, sometimes nonchalantly by people, but I think a positive vibe is created when you have fun with what you're doing and you recognize people's successes and you minimize some of the challenges. Now, obviously those challenges need to be recognized, but that's usually done in private. So what people are mostly seeing is the positive, good energy that's rolling in an organization. And if you see people having fun, kind of joking around, but also with a mission that's greater than themselves, that positive vibe is going to penetrate throughout the entire organization. So now that we know that the right structure is going to be planted in the right soil of great company culture, what does a team structure look like? Now, this is going to be different for every organization, and each sales organization is going to be a little bit different, right? Maybe on the private equity side, if you have a company that engages in private equity, you got those people that just came out of business school and they are dialing and dialing and dialing, trying to find those companies that might be interested, that are successful, to take some additional money to take their company to the next level. If you're part of a sales organization that sells cars, you might have a staff that does the initial interviews with the customers that come on the lot. You might have well-oiled sales people that are just trained all the time, that are meeting those customers, and they might be overseen by a sales manager. In our organization, we've set it up a different way that I think has been really beneficial, that fosters growth, as well as creates a career path for sales reps that are just coming into the organization. And we've set it up this way. At the head of that team, we have a team leader or team manager. And their job is to set goals, to manage the team, to train the team. It is their little entity that we've empowered them and given them autonomy to manage. Underneath that team leader, you have closers. These are those that receive those sets or those appointments from the newer sales reps, and they are closing the deals. Underneath them, you've got setters or probers that are the initial tip of the spear, and they're talking to customers and taking them through an interview process to see if they're ready to jump to that next level, to then speak to the program director or the closer, close down the sale. Now, we incorporated something a little bit different as well. Those closers can become assistant team leaders, and they have a mini organization underneath that team leader where they oversee 3 to 4 guys that they are training. And if you have 2 or 3 assistant team leaders under a team leader, that is going to be a pretty well-oiled machine, because each assistant team leader takes autonomy and making sure that their little assistant team is doing well, and you can have competition among themselves. That type of structure has worked really well in our type of sales team environment as far as setting up a structure for phone sales. Now, this could work for other types of organizations, but it also created a career path that when somebody came into the organization, they started as a setter or a consultant, they knew they could move to a closer, assistant team leader, and team leader. And if that team leader kicks off enough team leaders, they can become a division manager that is thriving and getting an override over an entire division. And also within that environment, you create competition, which I think is really important when it comes to having a structure that thrives, right? Because if you have multiple teams, they're competing against each other, but also creating an environment where they compete against themselves. So posting their averages, sales averages over time, and creating competitions and rewards if they beat their own 6-week or 4-week average can also be a way for them to compete against themselves. And I think part of that competing against themselves and competition is praising and recognizing success. I remember one time we had this epiphany that we were going to do a huge spiff company-wide, that if each rep could hit and improve and beat their 6-week average, they were going to receive a bonus. And if a team, everybody on the team did it, that team was going to get a bigger bonus. And it was amazing to see the type of competition and the type of energy that created within our organization. Finally, let's look at some of the key metrics that drive success when creating a team structure. Now, obviously, being a sales organization, the number one metric that you can look at to see if success is being reached through a structure is sales, and sales on a regular basis. And I know that teams can have great weeks and bad weeks. So I think measuring sales over a period of time allows you to look at consistency on the team. So one thing we do in our organization, we look at a 6-week average and a 12-week average. How is the team doing over a 6-week period of time? How's the team doing over a 12-week period of time? That really tells you how consistent they are. Now, let's say that a team did 20,000 one week and 50,000 another week, then 10,000. They're pretty inconsistent, but over the space of time, are they averaging the number that you hope that they would average, right? Because like I said, sales reps are human beings. Even if the right structure is in place, you're gonna have some that show up that had some challenges at home or other places, and they might not hit the metrics that they wanted to or the numbers they were hoping for. So looking at sales over a period of time is a crucial metric when analyzing team structure. I think another key metric to look at under team structure is appointment set. So every time that a sales rep is reaching out to a potential customer, they're hoping to drive that potential customer to an appointment set, meaning that that person has an appointment put on their calendar that they're going to listen to the presentation of the sales rep. And the more appointments set, the more opportunities there are to get sales. And I think in a team structure, a team leader and assistant team leader should be doing everything they can to create an environment that are helping these sales consultants get more and more sets, because more and more sets obviously create more opportunity. And I think last but not least, the most important thing to look at when looking at a metric as far as sales team structure is the work ethic metrics, right? However you measure that within your organization, for us, it's phone time and dials. That shows us if people on the team are working. And if you have a team that isn't hitting the activity metrics, you've got a lazy team or a team that's not putting in the work that needs to be done to see success. And a structure like we've created should create, by a minimum, the activity metrics that should be met on a regular basis, because those are things that the sales reps and that structure and that team can manage and expect on their own. It's not outside their control. It's 100% within their control to control their activity and their work ethic. You know, and if I look over the history over the last 2 decades on the sales teams that I've managed, the sales representative that I've worked with, I've always found that the teams that are the most successful had all of these metrics lined up. That structure allowed for them to have a high amount of activity metrics, a high amount of sets, and a high amount of sales. They all played key roles within each other. Now, these are things that I've seen work really well with the groups that I've worked with, but I'd be interested to see what you've done and how you've built a sales team structure. So please comment below. Let's engage in a dialogue. And as always, just for stopping by, I've got a free gift for you. It's our Sales and Persuasion course. It's 10 modules. It's normally $1,000. It's 100% free for you just for stopping by and watching the video. Just click on the link below aaronsSalesTraining.com, free, no strings attached. And once again, thanks for stopping by. Have an awesome day.